In this video, you will learn to calculate the average revenue or the average total revenue. In this video, we learn the definition of the average total revenue or the average revenue, the formula for the average total revenue divided by total production, the process for calculating the average total revenue, and a shortcut method of calculating the average total revenue. The average total revenue is the amount of revenue a firm earns per unit of production. The formula for the average total revenue is average revenue is equal to total revenue divided by total production. The table represents the revenue for a company that manufactures printers. You might want to print out the table from the website or pause the video and make a copy of the table by hand to help to follow along with the calculations. The first column represents the amount of production or output of the firm. The 10 in the column represents that 10 units of the item were produced in our example 10 printers. The second column represents the price of the good being produced. The good in this case is printers. Although not exactly a realistic price, 7 represents the price of the printers in our example. The third column represents the total revenue of the firm. In another video, the total revenue was defined as the amount of money the firm receives for selling a specific amount of its total production at a particular price. The format for calculating the total revenue is total production times the price of the good. The table presents the revenue for the company that manufactures printers. In this example, the total revenue is $70. The total revenue of $70 was found by multiplying 10 total production by 7 to get the $70. Let's look at the process of calculating the average total revenue. Instead of putting the full table on the screen, let's look at the first 4 rows of numbers, starting with the line where the total production is 0. The average total revenue cannot be calculated for the first row because the amount of total production is 0. Dividing any number by 0 is undefined. As a result, enter NA or dash in the first row of numbers for the average total cost. Let's move on to the next row where the firm produces 1 printer. The first step in the process of calculating the average revenue is to write down the formula. The formula for calculating the average revenue is total revenue divided by total production. After writing down the formula, locate the total revenue column in the table and the total revenue column in the formula. Notice that the total revenue in the second row of numbers is 7. Replace the total revenue in the formula with the value in the second row of numbers in the total revenue column, in this case 7. Next, locate the total production column in the table and the total production in the formula. Notice that the second row of numbers under total production is 1. Replace the total production in the formula with the number in the second row of the total production column, which in this case is 1. Next, divide the total revenue, in this case 7, by the total production, in this case 1, which gives 7. Transfer the 7 into the second row of numbers in the average revenue column. If you're feeling comfortable with this procedure, you might try pausing the video and writing down the formula used to calculate the average revenue. If you're not feeling comfortable with the procedure, try playing the next scene and then writing down the formula on a sheet of paper. First step in the process of calculating average revenue is to write down the formula. The formula for calculating the average revenue is total revenue divided by total production. Pause the video a minute and write down the formula on a piece of paper. Next, locate the total revenue in the table and locate the total revenue in the formula. Notice that the number next row is 14. Pause the video and see if you can carry out the next step of the process. The next step is to replace the total revenue in the formula. The total revenue in the third row of numbers is 14, so 10 will replace the total revenue. Pause the video and see if you can do the next step in the process of calculating the average revenue. Next, locate the production column on the table and locate the production in the total production in the formula. Notice that the third row of numbers in the total productions is 2. Replace the total production in the formula with 2, which is the amount of total production. Pause the video and see if you can carry out the next step in the process. The next step is to divide the total revenue, in this case 14, by the total production, which is 7. Pause the video and see if you can complete the next step in the process of calculating the average revenue. The final step in the process is to transfer the 7 onto the table. Let's look at a simpler way to calculate the average revenue. As you may remember, the average revenue is equal to the total revenue divided by total production. Total revenue is defined as being price times total production. This means in the formula we can replace total revenue with price times total production. Notice that total production appears in both the numerator and the denominator, or on the top and on the bottom. Also notice that total production in the numerator is connected to the price by multiplication. If that is the case, we can just cross out total production both on the top in the numerator and on the bottom in the denominator. This means that average total revenue is equal to the price of the product. Look in the price column and notice that when the price is $7, the average total revenue is also $7 in both cases. If you follow the procedure for calculating the average revenue for the fourth row of numbers, you'll find it too is $7. Pause the video and see if you can fill in the missing average revenues. Here are the answer to the missing average revenues. In this video, you learned that the average revenue is the amount of revenue per unit of production or output. The formula for calculating the average revenue is total revenue divided by total production. The average revenue is constant and is equal to the price of the good.